Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Growth Diary. I'm Keith Atkinson, and today my guest is someone who walked away from a law degree, picked up a toolbox, and for over 20 years developed one of London's most impressive property development businesses. He's now making a bold move into property finance. So, the founder of Kaya Landmarks, Ravi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about the background. Most people who leave a law degree end up going back into something that's perhaps quite safe, but you went totally the other way. Take me back to that decision. What did you actually see that gave you the conviction to go all in on property from scratch?
I think the first thing was I was come from very humble beginnings, um, and just wanted to do well for the family. Was the biggest motivation and become successful and obviously provide for the family, which was the key driving force. But I think at early days, when I was at university, when I was there, it wasn't for me. You know, my interest was more always the entrepreneurial mindset. Being in business and moving forward in that space. And I guess always had a creative mind, and yeah, property and property construction and that space really interested me, and I pursued that as a career.
And through that, you've created a full turnkey model. So, meaning you control everything from land acquisition through to delivery and finance. So, what has been the advantage of owning that full chain? Where do you feel like it's creating the most complexity?
Look, it gives us full control, and I'm always a key believer in understanding a product fully. So I guess it gives us the space we're in, especially for property development. It is a high risk business, has many variables, and I feel that us controlling the complete life cycle of it gives us control over it, which then allows us to mitigate the risks and de-risk ourselves throughout the whole life cycle. When it comes to challenges, you mentioned the challenges. I guess we're in a very fast-paced environment with lots of challenges. So I guess the key thing I've faced is mainly having the correct people around us. Building the right team is been the biggest challenge for me personally.
And you described yourself as being a more of a lender mentor rather than a development finance provider. You've got that side of your business as well. So what does that actually mean in practice? How does your experience on the build side change the way you assess a borrower?
So I guess what's happened organically grew the business from being a contractor through to becoming a developer, and now sitting on the lending space. And I guess understanding all those areas, most banks tend to focus on numbers and do have an element of understanding the borrower's needs, but they're more numbers. I think for myself, being on the ground, smelling, tasting, being in that space from a contractor from many years ago, being on the tools through to then running my own sites to running my own development. I feel like when I sit in front of a borrower, I really understand their needs. I feel I can underwrite them, the deal, better. I get a feel of it. And it gives me the ability to be more flexible on my approach when it comes to the borrower, the development, our internal sort of stress testing. Most banks follow a framework, and don't get me wrong, we do have a framework, but having that personal touch gives me the ability to really hear and feel what the borrower and what the development needs, and that usually gives me sort of that, yeah, it gives me that sort of that what's the right word? It gives me that USP, to work with the borrower to get where we need to get to.
And then your goal moving forward is to ultimately build the business, keep building, and then float. How are you thinking about going about that?
So look, it's in the lending world, it's very competitive and it is a numbers game. But for me, I'm taking a very steady approach. I want my loan book to be strong. I want to work with borrowers who are well versed, well organized, and have an execution plan. And it may take a bit of time. It may take a bit of time. And I'm not rushing. I'm not running. But what I'm looking to do is build a steady loan book with good loans which are performing, and building that portfolio. And yeah, and my ultimate goal would be to take the business to and float it and make it a public.
Fantastic, amazing goals. And you currently run quite a deliberately lean operation around 16 to 18 people across your development and lending businesses. So post COVID, you strip that back to primarily an AT model. How did you find the right people to select for that and have that high trust, low headcount structure? And how did you retain them moving forward?
So I'm a key believer that people is what make the business, and that's that I really focus a lot of time on that. You can have processes in place and structures in place, but people actually make the business. So it's never easy. It's challenging to get the right people, but I purposely wanted the A team, a core team of people that understand my vision, understand my goal, and and being coming from a family run business. That's my more that my business is always based on that model, those morals, those principles. So we spend so much time at work with our work colleagues and the people we work with than we do with our own family sometimes.
Mm,
So I really take that seriously. So I wanted to build a core team, a family based sort of structure, but all our goals and visions are to work hard and deliver what we know what we plan to do. I guess what happens in this space is in many businesses, sorry, is that people hide over emails. Like, that's what I found. You'd have loads of people. You have a number of people. I had a large team. It felt like I'm always dealing with emails. So here, I feel like I've got a lean team. We're all involved. Everyone knows everyone. And everyone understands what the execution plan is, and we're all working to that same driven goal. It's perfect. It works for me. It works for the business. And what I realized is that we were actually more productive having a leaner team than we had a larger team.
mm.
Yeah, initially it was, I was a bit cautious. Am I making the right decision? But now we're in practice. It's been what I don't know how many 3-4 years now since COVID. I assume. Yeah, it's working.
It's really interesting actually about that sort of company culture because so many companies, but historically will just look at a CV and go yes, no, or whatever, not actually get someone in for a chat and actually dive into who they are as a person and how they communicate. I think that's so important because you need to, like you say, you spend more time with your colleagues than you do with your family a lot of the time.
Exactly.
Uh, yeah.
That's exactly the culture that I like having is that we have fun. We work hard, but at the same time we have fun. We enjoy, we enjoy each other's company. You want to wake up in the morning and go to work and feel like you're in a happy space, right? Not get up and go to work
Yes.
feel like it's a chore.
Yeah.
So that's the culture and the environment I'm trying to build throughout the business.
Yes. Segueing into AI automation, you're already ahead of the game and you're already exploring how AI can be applied to your processes on the back end of the business, which is a really good way to start in using AI, I think, at the moment, particularly around admin.
100%. I think last year I started to look at this in more detail, and I think, look, running a business, our biggest cost is always staffing. Now, despite me loving having people and human interaction and having a great team, I think it's also important to look at technology because it does help streamline the business, not only on the processing side, but even headcount. So obviously, having a very core lean team, I wanted to also look at the amount of work that we had to deal with as a core team. There's a lot of pressure, It's a fast-paced environment, so I wanted to explore ideas of and systems that are in place. And AI has been one of the key areas in looking at how it can help us drive our processing, help reduce wage bills, and streamline our processes throughout the development side, the construction side, and the finance side. And yeah, it's a really interesting space. There's so much going on. I still have a mindset of this hybrid approach. I still feel that it's nice to have the human touch. Having a system that helps with the processes and streamline, and not doing things twice, sort of, call it. But once that's all refined into one system, is then applying the human touch to refine it and be able to sort of just look at it from a different approach rather than a very sort of a structured robotic dynamics. And I guess one of the key areas is I don't like emails by automated by AI. I feel that the body of it can be, but it needs to go across to whoever it's going across to. The correspondence has to have a human touch to it. You know, sometimes
Yeah.
you get emails and some of the words you're like, that guy did not use that.
Mm.
You know, it's like your mate sends you an
No.
email or something, and you're like, you know the language they speak. I think
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
very important for me. Is he's using AI to a certain extent, but still having that human approach when it comes to the reality of the business.
Yeah, a lot of people I speak to, business owners on this podcast channel, everyone's saying the same thing, and that's quite a commonality. Is that the human element is still critical, and when if you try to automate the whole end-to-end process, and try to cut corners and think, oh, I can just literally sit on the beach, put my feet up, and let the system do all the work, I think you'll fall short, and people see through it, and people don't like it. There's a lot of pushback, so I think there's a place for it, and it has to be carefully implemented. Um, Especially if you're using it on the front end of the business, be very careful.
Yeah, and it depends, you know, like, when we look at the businesses, different businesses, we've got the construction side, we've got the development side, the finance side. A lot of it's also sensitive information, you know, and also
Mm,
I don't feel that AI can approach it like we can as humans. You know, that when you underwrite a
no.
deal, when you look at things, it needs that human touch. You can use it for the internal processing and back end side of things. But when it comes to the deal structure, when it comes
Yeah.
to that's on the finance side, and that needs to be a human touch. You know, you need to be able
Mm,
to feel it, have your credit meetings, be able to feel, feel and smell what's going on, you know, on that deal. And on the construction side, again, automated, yes, but when you face everyday problems, again, it needs the human touch. And on the
mm,
development front, back end, no problem. You know, the filing systems, getting your sort of development packs ready, that fine. But when it comes to again getting the site, you know, sold or delivered and all that sort of stuff, it needs that human touch.
yeah, 100% agree. Looking at the diversification of your business, you've launched the investments model, and you've also got your furniture brand alongside that as well. So, what draws you to those areas, and how do you balance between each business? And what draws your focus?
Yeah, so look, a balance is always hard. Yeah, there is no real structure. You know, whatever needs to be done needs to be done. But I feel that what's helpful is the businesses are very relative. You know, so yes, we've got the development arm, which we build our own developments. We've got the construction arm, which we build our own developments in house. We now branched out to the development finance, which we're lending out. And on the sideline, Kamora Investment was set up to sort of diversify my business portfolio, and look at various different businesses and basically take sort of hobbies and my hobbies and my sort of interests and make them reality. And in that space, I've always been design driven. I love design, that sort of world. Health also. But on the design front, furniture was a space which is very relative to the construction development world, and so we're in the midst of setting up a high end furniture brand where we're doing high end marble furniture and designing it and selling it online. So we're in the process of building that. So again, it's very relative to all my businesses are all real estate, call it related. And yeah, I try to spend my time where I'm balancing, a couple of hours a day on every business, and whatever has to happen has to happen. You know, I have no time, I have no structure. I work till 12, 1 o'clock at night sometimes, even beyond. But yeah, it's the nature of the beast.
So just to get a bit of insight from you, you've been in the industry for 20 years, from builder to developer to lender. What is the one thing that people get wrong in this industry? And what can you give us a bit of insight to people coming in?
Look, I've been in this industry. Yeah, this October coming to 20 years. Um, and I think what I've learned personally is that the time we're in, there's a lot of social media, a lot of things are happening, and I think people also get carried away with a dream, and they look at others and look at other businesses and look what's happening around the world, and really focus on the wrong things. And what I mean by that is a lot of people focus on the gains. You know, what can we gain? Look what they're doing. You know, and I think it takes them away from actually the fundamentals. And with me, the key thing is focus on your execution plan and to de-risk yourself. Look at that first. Get that in line. Focus on that, not the rewards and what's going to come. That should be secondary. If you have a mission or a business idea or a business plan, focus on the nitty gritty first, because there's the success and the rewards. If you do things properly and put your heart and soul into it and just keep focusing at it and get it right, all those rewards will just automatically, they'll just, they'll fall into place, without you knowing. I think in this day and age, what happens, a lot of people focus on the opposite. What can we gain first? What are, what are the profits? How much money can we make first? And actually, they lose the actual the main fundamentals, which is to focus on how can you deliver your business plan or your product to the best standards. How can how can you manage it the best way? How can you de-risk yourself? All those things are key. Look at those first and focus on them, and everything else will fall into place.
Love that. Ravi, this has been an absolutely brilliant chat. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for sharing your journey. No doubt this is going to resonate with a lot of people, and I'm excited to see where you're going to be in the years to come.
No, thank you for having me, and yeah, look forward for yes, the next podcast with you.
Excellent. Looking forward to that. Cheers.
Thank you.